dosen, pengelola prodi maupun mahasiswa yang hadir pada pagi hari ini ya kegiatan workshop bulanan nggih, yang disediakan oleh FKPPS. So today's topic is assessment in physical education is highly relevant to our effort in improving learning quality and accountability within PE program. Jadi topik kita pada hari ini adalah assessment dalam pendidikan jasmani, sehingga harapannya ini bisa relevan dengan pembelajaran kita di kelas maupun untuk siswa kita di prodi PJKR gitu nggih. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker today, Professor Tenjian Liang, also known as Prof. Kin, Professor Kin, an associate professor and also University Distinguished Faculty at Central Washington University, USA. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, izinkan kami memperkenalkan pembicara kita pada hari ini, Profesor Tanjian Liang, atau bisa disapa Prof. Kin, Associate Professor dari Universitas Central Washington dari Amerika. Professor Kin is an internationally recognized scholar in sport pedagogy and physical education teacher education. He also earned his PhD in sport pedagogy from University of Northern Colorado, and his teaching and research expertise including teacher development, assessment design, caring classroom climates, and effective teaching behaviors. Jadi Profesor Kin merupakan pakar di bidang pedagogi olahraga dan pendidikan guru pendidikan jasmani. Mungkin Bapak Ibu yang pengelola PPG ini sangat relate ya, nanti mungkin bisa dielaborasikan. Beliau meraih gelar PhD-nya dari bidang sport pedagogi dari University of Northern Colorado. Bidang keahlian beliau meliputi pengembangan guru, perancangan asesmen, kemudian perilaku pembelajaran yang efektif. Over the past 2 decades, Prof. Kin has served in various leadership roles, including Director of the Health and Physical Education Program at Catawba College, Coordinator in CWU's Teachers Education Performance Assessment, and Faculty Fellow for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity. Jadi selama 2 dekade terakhir, Prof. Kin juga memegang berbagai posisi penting, diantaranya adalah Direktur Program Studi Pendidikan Jasmani di Catawba College. Jadi Korprodi mungkin begitu ya. Koordinator Program Teacher Education Performance Assessment, dan juga Fellow Fakultas di bidang keragaman, kesetaraan, dan inklusivitas. He has been actively involved in Shape America, ASAP, and International Alliance for Invitational Education, and his publication cover important themes such as model-based instruction, caring in teacher education, and assessment practices in physical education. Beliau juga aktif di berbagai organisasi internasional seperti Shape America, AISEP, ini yang konferensinya akan dilaksanakan bulan Juni tahun depan di Taiwan, dan juga International Alliance for Invitational Education. Publikasi beliau mencakup tema-tema penting seperti model pembelajaran, pendidikan guru, dan juga asesmen dalam pendidikan jasmani. Notably, Prof. Kin received the Outstanding Teaching Award in 2025 and Outstanding Scholarly Achievement Award in 2024 from Central Washington University. Sebagai pengakuan dari pencapaian beliau, Prof. Kin menerima penghargaan Outstanding Teacher Award dan Outstanding Scholarly Achievement Award dari kampusnya beliau di Central Washington University. Okay, without further ado, please join us and warmly welcoming Prof. Tenjian Liang, Prof. Kin, to deliver his keynote session entitled Assessment in Physical Education. Prof. Kin, the screen is yours.
Hello, everyone. So good morning in Indonesia. So I think it's 7 o'clock in my nighttime, which is a perfect timing for me. So thank you very much for your participation. So before I start my my sharing, so I won't consider this as a lecture. I will consider this as a sharing with all the fantastic Indonesia physical education teachers, and we exchange ideas right here. So at the end of the day, I will provide my email to Charlie and Arif as well. So if you have any question, you could let me know after that. So um, next, I would like to thank you for all these fantastic colleagues, including Professor Dr. Yosef and Charlie, and also Arif as well, and all of you that participate in this workshop today, and especially for those people who are behind the scene and they monitor and also organize this wonderful committee and these workshop as well. And I really appreciate your time. So thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to give a couple concepts, the key concepts to share with all of us today. So number one, we should know that the assessment is gathering the information and collection of the information that framed by how that information is used. So the second thing is there are two common types of assessment. So you may heard about summative and informative, but in a more theoretical way that we call it assessment for learning and the assessment of learning. So I'll explain more what is the difference between for learning and of learning. So the key concepts number two here is that assessment for learning. So here the preposition is for learning shares this kind of characteristics. So it is linked directly to your teaching, which is in instruction as well. So and it also views the students as primary client. And the third characteristics here is it is meaningful and it happens as part of the instruction. So we might conduct all kind of assessment at the end of the instruction, but here I might share some ideas like during the instruction or during the class, we may also conduct the assessment as well. So the last characteristics for learning is students know what they are supposed to learn ahead of time. So which means we give all these information to the students and then the students will know, okay, this is what the teacher expects and this is what they expect me to improve on. Okay, and then the key concept number 3 here. So as you could see, there are 12 blocks right there. So I'm not going to read all of them, but I would like to let you know there are 12 types of assessment here. So for instance, like teacher observation, if we use it in a coaching perspective, and teacher observation is quite popular in the instructional process. And also we can utilize the student using peer observation and some of the event tasks that we might like the most if you teaching track and field, maybe at the end of the semester or maybe at the end of a couple other weeks, so we could run a track and field tournament as well. So all right, I'll give you the examples of each of them later.
Okay,
And
Professor
let
Min,
us go ahead, please,
yeah,
Arif.
excuse me, if I may interrupt, can I have a short translation for our colleagues in Bahasa, maybe only a few minutes?
Yes, please.
Oke, thank you so much. Jadi Bapak Ibu tadi sudah disampaikan Prof. Kin terkait dengan apa materi yang disampaikan terkait assessment. Jadi kalau kita mengenal assessment dalam Indonesia mungkin ada sumatif dan formatif ya. Tetapi di sini tadi ada konsep yang menarik ditawarkan. Jadi assessment dalam pembelajaran dan assessment pada pembelajaran. Nah, itu apa bedanya? Tadi disampaikan juga bahwa assessment ini tidak hanya terkait dengan apa namanya pengumpulan informasi dengan tes, namun assessment juga bisa untuk menjadi bagian dari pembelajaran dan assessment hasil pembelajaran yang biasa kita lakukan. Nah, untuk yang kedua, yaitu assessment untuk pembelajaran memiliki karakter yang pertama terkait langsung dengan pembelajaran gitu, nggih. Yang kedua, memandang murid sebagai klien utama. Yang ketiga bermakna sebagai bagian dari pengajaran dan yang keempat adalah murid untuk mengetahui aspek awal apa yang harus mereka pelajari. Kemudian caranya bagaimana observasi guru, kemudian melalui jurnal, tadi apa lagi ya, portofolio dan kegiatan yang lainnya. Jadi tidak harus berupa tes seperti itu. Thank you, Prof. Please continue.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sorry, I just too excited to share all these ideas with all of you. So, and then I did not stop for your interpretation. So do you want me to go, do you want
Yeah,
me to stop like by every single slide and then that might be helpful?
yeah, that will be helpful and thank you so much for every
Okay,
slide.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just too excited and continue on. So sorry about that. So let us move on to key concept number 4 right here. So these assessment has to be holistic and also analytic rubrics are used to distribute the assessment criteria to your students and subsequently evaluate the students' performance as well. So, and also the assessment should occur in 3 domains. So, in the US right now, even though the PE teachers complain, but the national add one more domain onto it. I'll share the document, the document with you later. So basically, the 3 domains are the cognitive and affective and psychomotor. All right, Professor Arif.
Thank you, Profesor Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu mungkin ini hampir sama seperti domain kita dalam ranah assessment, namun di US nanti ada tambahan satu lagi. Dan yang paling penting adalah rubrik holistik ini. Nah, nanti rubrik holistik ini ketika menentukan masing-masing indikator dalam rubrik ini yang nanti juga akan perlu kita cermati bersama agar bisa diterapkan. Thank you, Profesor Kin.
Thank you. So the key concept number 5 for today's sharing. So the assessment of learning. So I've already explained assessment for learning. So now it's assessment of learning is to use to confirm what students have learned by comparing achievement against one class and a district, a school district, so or nationwide benchmark or any other standards. So when assessment of learning is reported to parents, and they should be made aware of what students have learned in physical education and what and where, especially where students are with respect to essential learning.
Ya. Jadi Bapak Ibu ini yang menarik ya. Jadi kalau kita menilai siswa kita melalui evaluasi berdasarkan CP, biasanya kita hanya dilaporkan untuk sekolah maupun siswa atau wali ya. Namun ini yang menarik bisa menjadi indikator dari hasil penilaian pembelajaran dibandingkan ke sekolah lain maupun distrik atau provinsi lain begitu. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm also doing some other assignment amid the wonderful PE teachers. And so, so first, like I just explained to you, so the definition of each assessment for learning, which is the first big pink bar right there, and the assessment of learning from the pink bar right there. What was that color? So I forgot. But anyway, a lavender. Anyway, so the assessment for learning basically is discussing the positions assessment as an integral part of the teaching and learning process in ways that allow physical education teachers to make inference about children learning, which is our students, and can include both formative and summative elements. However, the assessment of learning used to confirm what students have learned by comparing achievement against a class, district, and nationwide benchmark, like I just explained that. So basically, the main difference is one is conducted at the end of the class. That could be summative, but formative assessment, it is assessment for learning. So you assess the student during your teaching. So those little things we can check for understanding. For instance, you ask the student a question, so that's going to be the assessment for learning out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Jadi Bapak Ibu tadi seperti disampaikan bahwa assessment for learning dan assessment of learning itu bedanya apa? Kalau assessment untuk pembelajaran seperti halnya di slide disebutkan bahwa memang digunakan untuk menarik kesimpulan dari hasil pembelajaran melalui berbagai media assessment yang tadi ya, bisa berupa portofolio, bisa berupa observasi dan seterusnya. Namun kalau assessment hasil belajar atau assessment of learning itu bisa digunakan sebagai assessment sumatif atau akhir yang hasilnya nanti dibandingkan dengan CPL atau indikator dari kurikulum nasional yang sudah ada. Thank you.
Thank you. So let us move on to definition number 2 right there. So Arif, can you see that? Because on my end, so my bar may block this. Okay, so right now it's all good. Okay, so the definition number 2. So the summative assessment, which is assessment of learning, and the formative assessment, which is assessment for learning. So let me explain summative assessment what it is. So we use the summative assessment to evaluate student learning at the conclusion of a specific instructional setting. So for instance, you finish a class, you want to conduct the assessment for the student. That's going to be towards the end of your PE class. That's a summative. But formative, it is ongoing. So it's a nonstop, and you might have like 50 minutes a lesson or maybe 1 hour lesson. So during the 1 hour lesson, you might want to check up the students in terms of their learning in cognitive and maybe affective as well, not just the psychomotor domain, like focusing on the physical skills. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu, saya kira untuk asesmen sumatif sama gitu di akhir semester apa yang akan dievaluasi melalui tes apa gitu gitu. Namun yang formatif ini sedikit berbeda karena formatif ini bisa jadi dilakukan pada saat pembelajaran dan tidak harus dengan format baku seperti tes, namun juga bisa dengan format-format yang lebih fleksibel sehingga nanti hasilnya bisa digunakan untuk evaluasi pembelajaran. Dan biasanya dievaluasi tidak harus semua domain tapi bisa psikomotor atau bagian domain yang ingin ditekankan saja. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next definition and formal assessments and also informal assessments. So how are we going to do that? The formal assessment, we could, for instance, a lot of physical education teachers in the US and they use the fitness testing. So to test, I mean, all these students' physical skills or maybe their cardiovascular skills. So the formal assessments, including the summative and also the formative as well. So it is systematic, and you pre-plan it very well, which is I believe you do, and that allows physical education teachers to measure how well a student have learned from you. And during the informal assessment, so it used to gather the information that can be used to make adjustment and your judgment about students' learning that may not be on the standardized testing as well. So for instance, if you teach a basketball shooting skill, which is you're using the beef, the 390 degrees, and however, you just walk around the students' practice and you provide a feedback to them. You also check up each student if they perform that, and that's informal because you walk around. All right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu yang asesmen formal saya kira sama seperti di kita, yaitu menggunakan CPL dan tes yang terukur, bisa juga tes ini berupa tes kebugaran jasmani. Namun untuk asesmen informal ini lebih fleksibel, jadi tidak harus berupa tes standar, bisa juga misalnya kita ngajar materi basket, yang biasanya tesnya menggunakan indikator BIF gitu, balance dan seterusnya. Namun kita bisa melakukannya dengan informal, yaitu berjalan mengelilingi kelas, kemudian memberikan feedback langsung kepada siswa yang kita nilai masih memerlukan feedback. Itu sudah termasuk assessment informal. Thank you.
Thank you. So next one, please allow me to bring you more in depth right now. So how are we going to understand the assessment for learning? So more teacher it has to be more teacher friendly and also student friendly as well. So which means the teacher plan for it, but the student also get informed before the class or before your teaching, and the student gets more empowerment of that. So that's what we call student-centered assessment. So when you plan as a PE teacher, you might want to ask yourself two questions. So number one, what was learned for that class? And second, how well was it learned? So these are help you to determine extent of a students can demonstrate in the context and his or her learning. Arif, thank you.
Thank you. Jadi Bapak Ibu ini yang mungkin juga bisa kita terapkan di kelas kita bahwa assessment itu difokuskan pada siswa. Jadi student center assessment di mana kita memahami siswa dengan pendekatan-pendekatan yang ramah, yang baik begitu ya. Misalnya dua pertanyaan yang bisa kita ajukan, apa yang sudah dipelajari siswa dan seberapa baik hal itu diajari. Hal ini tentunya akan berkorelasi kepada bagaimana kita menentukan arah atau menentukan pembelajaran selanjutnya untuk siswa yang lebih relevan, sehingga siswa ini akan belajar dengan lebih maksimal. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So now let us move on to how to design. So how to design the assessment. So I have a couple slides of what we'd like to share with you. So number one, so how does the assessment related to your program goal? So basically, when we talk about a program, so each of you coming from the different elementary school, middle school, or high school in Indonesia, so you have a group of PE teacher work at the same school, you might have the different program goal. So you identify that first. And then basically you ask the whole group of PE teacher you work with, what do you want your student to learn in a given period of time? So what it means, like one semester, after this whole semester, what do you want your student to learn? All right. So Arif, thank you.
Thank you. Jadi ini bagaimana step untuk menyusun assessment. Jadi ada tiga secara sederhananya. Pertama, mengidentifikasi kelompok atau siswa atau kelompok belajar kita. Kemudian apa yang mau dipelajari dan tentunya goalnya. Terus kemudian yang ketiga, tentukan waktunya. Jadi kapan, misalnya sampai 3 pertemuan, 4 pertemuan, dan seterusnya. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you. So the designing assessment, and you also want to ask yourself and your peer physical education teachers, like, are the assessment linked to one and another? So they gradually build into more complex, challenging assessments. So which means you started from a very easy skill and progress to the harder skill. So let me use a basketball or maybe badminton this time. You teach them how to serve using backhand serve and underhand serve. But and then the next class you move on to how are they going to develop those footsteps or whatever and combine together. That's the hardest assessment at the end. So we teach the easy part first, and then we move on. And also you want to sorry so you and also you want to know to what milestone or what standards benchmark does the assessment connect and how. So I think Dr. Charlie is and Arif, they did a very good job for the national curriculum here, is which means you have to connect to the outcome that the national or your province design over there. So we are not going to teach something that not aligned with the outcome that the national design. So I will show you later what the USA national outcome is going to be looking like from pre-K to 12. Thank you.
Thank you. So, jadi tadi yang disampaikan adalah untuk merancang asesmen yang efektif tentu harus berhubungan dengan kurikulum nasional. Dan ini yang tentu tidak mudah jika kita tidak berkolaborasi dengan grup konsorsium maupun kelompok kerja guru. Dan yang kedua adalah dipastikan ketika kita menyusun asesmen itu menggunakan tahapan mulai dari yang mudah sampai dengan yang lebih menantang. Dicontohkan dalam badminton tadi misalnya bagaimana melakukan servis yang paling sederhana kemudian yang paling kompleks. Namun di akhir pembelajaran, asesmennya harus berkaitan dengan milestone atau tahapan-tahapan apa saja. Misalnya tahapan servis itu yang pertama, oke bisa pukul dulu, kedua masuk, ketiga baru yang advance. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful, Arif. So I just briefly share with you what the US 2024 National PE outcome standards. So basically, we just revamped it 2024, and I was on the committee to review this one. So let me show you. There are four main standards. I am showing you as an example. For instance, this is our skills, develop a motor skills. So you could see from grade pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. So each is the outcome. It's the
Hmm.
outcome. I believe Dr. Jean Lee and Arif, I mean, they are all working on and design all this very well for Indonesia PE teachers. And so same thing in the US. So we want all the PE teachers and future PE teachers, they can, when they design the lesson, they align with all these outcomes. And then they design the assessment.
Ya, jadi beliau ini juga salah satu komite yang mereview kurikulum dengan jasmani di Amerika, gitu Bapak Ibu. Dan tadi yang dibagikan adalah kurikulumnya di tahun 2024, di mana capaian pembelajaran atau PE outcome standard itu ditentukan mulai dari pre-K, ini sebelum TK, gitu, sampai grade 12 atau kelas 3 SMA. Sehingga nanti ketika kita menyusun pembelajaran dan assessment harus berpatokan pada kurikulum tersebut. Thank you.
Thank you, Arif. So this one is easy, Arif. So an assessment for learning characteristics. So there are two. Um, like I mentioned a couple slides before, so your assessment must align with your instruction. So these are the two links, and it has to link it to each other. And then we would like to share that assessment needs to be learner centered. So the learner centers is when you provide and design the assessment, you want to empower the student to do two things. Number one, they can speak and explain. Number two, are they able to write it out and explain to you? Besides, they demonstrate the skills to you. All right. So one thing that I will, after Arif just shared this slide, and I will give you an example.
Thank you. Jadi Bapak Ibu ini adalah karakter assessment for learning ya. Jadi ada dua hal. Yang pertama harus saling berkaitan antara tujuan pembelajaran dengan kegiatan pembelajaran dan assessmentnya. Kemudian yang kedua berfokus pada siswa. Tentu siswa ini diberikan kesempatan atau wadah untuk mereka mampu menjelaskan topik yang dipelajari. Kemudian yang kedua adalah mereka mampu mendemonstrasikan. Sehingga ini bisa dicapai assessment yang efektif begitu.
Thank you, Arif. So, and one example, I think that's a failure example because I did that when I was in graduate school, and but right now some of my students do doing that. So, for instance, let us using a badminton as an example. So your instructional goal is each student will be able to backhand serve a badminton birdie over the net and land it to the appropriate area using proper cues. All right. So what are we going to assess them? We should assess them how they are serve, the skill of serving. But however, one of my student teacher in a student teaching and he just got failed by the supervisor for one thing because he teaches serve. However, he assessed the student by put 5 hula hoops and on the other side of the courts, and then if you can get 4 out of 5, you pass the serving. But one thing that's not easy to understand if we are really good at badminton before or we coach them, it is you when a PE teacher say, I'm teaching serving, then you should serve. You should teach the serve instead of evaluate them the product, which is okay, can I control the birdie and land it to the certain spots? But it had that one, it's very hard to understand. wait a second. I think
Tenang
I'm teaching
saja,
serving. You are
tenang
supposed to be
saja.
good,
Hampir
and
mana dulu?
then you can
Betul deh, Pak.
control.
Sebentar, Pak.
You can control the landing. Well, for I will argue that for one reason, when I advise the student teacher why he just get failed by the supervisor, because you can use a wrong serving skill, but you can still hit those 5 spots. Thank you,
Oke.
Arif.
Thank you so much. So this is an interesting explanation about badminton. Jadi Bapak Ibu, contoh yang digunakan adalah badminton. Kalau kita menggunakan assessment atau penilaian misalnya dengan menilai, oke, siswa service backhand serve 5 kali masuk, yang dinilai bukan masuknya saja, tetapi ketika masuk 5 kali belum tentu tekniknya benar seperti tadi dicontohkan. Nah untuk itu lebih kepada bagaimana kita mendesain rubrik agar ini bisa mencakup termasuk proses dan teknik gerakannya sehingga tidak hanya berhasil dari 5 kali servis berhasil 4 itu nilainya bagus dan namun dari 4 itu apakah teknik pukulannya cara memegangnya kontrol arah shuttlecocknya sampai mendaratnya semuanya bisa sesuai. Thank you.
Thank you, Arif. I understand what you are talking now. I'm lying. So, um, all right. So let us move on to assessment for learning characteristics number 2. So these are not very new to you because I've already explained a couple slides before. So the assessment is an ongoing part of your teaching and not an end and afterthoughts. So I just give you an example. So teaching the badminton serving skill, you should assess them while you're teaching. Not at the end of the day, we use some standard or summative assessment, what we call it a product, than to assess the student because student really need to know if their backhand serve is correct or not. So you get to tell them. I believe a lot of you already done that, but theoretically, and we get to understand why we want to do that because that's part of the teaching. All right. So the second bar right there in the middle, the assessment compromise meaningful tasks performed in the context. So when I say meaningful, it means you let the student know or you empower the student, encourage the student to know, and this is a meaningful skill for them. And the criteria for assessment are known in advance. So certain things that may not line up with the culture that we have, and I cannot generalize Asian culture, but I would like to use my home country culture. Like sometimes when we teach a student, we don't tell them what are we going to assess them at the beginning because that kind of like okay, well, if I tell you, I mean, what it's going to assess, it means you can cheat. But in the United States, that's in the opposite way. So because what you want, it is not to punish the student by not knowing it. You want the student to learn the skill, and that's why we tell them what kind of a skill that you are going to learn, and then here is the assessment. Here's the rubric that I would like to share with you so that also we address the student-centered learning later. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi kalau ini adalah terkait dengan karakteristik assessment for learning yang kedua, yaitu yang pertama, penilaian ini dilakukan terus-menerus tidak hanya pada akhir pembelajaran di sumatif maupun formatif, sehingga nanti ketika melakukan penilaian, siswa akan lebih dapat untuk memahami apa yang sedang dilakukannya dan bagaimana mereka mengevaluasinya. Kemudian yang kedua, ini adalah meaningful assessment. Jadi ketika kita mengevaluasi siswa atau memberikan nilai, tidak hanya semata-mata kita beri nilai 90 atau nilai A gitu, ya. Namun kita juga bisa menjelaskan kepada siswa dari hasil tersebut itu artinya apa, capaian yang diraih apa. Ini sangat penting karena di Amerika tidak seperti di negara yang lain. Mungkin kalau kita khawatir ini tesnya disembunyikan ini, apa tes indikatornya dirahasiakan agar siswa ini tidak curang. Tapi kalau di Amerika, tes itu indikatornya diberitahukan di awal sehingga siswa itu akan memahami apa yang mereka pelajari sampai mereka bisa mempersiapkan tesnya dengan baik. Thank you.
Thank you, Arif. So the next one, I would like to share a little bit about this, what I call appropriate practice for assessment. So Arif and Charlie, I think I have to keep it secret for now because I'm also on that Shape America committee, just finished revising appropriate practices and provide those examples. So I cannot share the document now because it's under review and then it will publish soon. So I will share that with you. So one thing that is easy for us to understand is the formative and summative assessment are ongoing and also part of the student learning. So, in particularly including the students with disabilities. So, in the USA, we promote inclusive teaching, which is any student who ever sit in a wheelchair, or they have a reading disability, or they have some maybe they are blind or deaf, or have some hearing impairment. So, we include those students in the class as well. So that's why the formative assessment and summative assessment, we need to adjust that just for those students in order to show we are inclusive teachers. And then all the physical education teachers should systematically teach and assess all domains. Like I said, the cognitive domain, affective domain, and plus the physical domain, which is the SKUs in particularly, and using different type of assessment. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi, Bapak Ibu, ternyata di Amerika itu sekarang sedang ada revisi Appropriate Practice for Assessment. Cara penilaian di Amerika itu akan direvisi, namun karena belum dirilis secara resmi, jadi belum bisa di-share dokumennya ke kita. Namun prinsip yang disampaikan adalah, yang pertama adalah ketika kita melakukan penilaian ini bukan bagian yang terpisahkan dari proses pembelajaran. Sehingga ketika penilaian itu ya dilakukan sesuai dengan apa yang sudah kita rencanakan di pembelajaran itu. Kemudian yang kedua, penilaian ini digunakan tidak hanya untuk siswa yang normal, dalam hal ini adalah siswa yang disabilitas itu bisa juga melakukan atau mengikuti proses pembelajaran beserta dengan penilaiannya dengan efektif. Kemudian yang terakhir adalah domain yang dinilai itu ada kognitif, afektif, dan juga psikomotor atau fisik yang nanti akan secara komprehensif dan sistematis disusun agar bisa menilai secara holistik. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and appropriate practices for for assessment, and this one I would like to share is assessment should be defined clearly for the student to know. So, before you're teaching, for instance, at the beginning of the class or a badminton class, you are teaching serve, then we should develop the assessment, for instance, like a rubric with all clear assessment criteria, and you explain to the student at the beginning of the class and before you're teaching. So the student will know what you expect them to learn and what they are expect to be evaluated. And it means the student will have some information in advance. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi satu hal yang harus disampaikan di awal kelas yaitu adalah bagaimana kriteria penilaian ini bisa disampaikan secara jelas dan secara keseluruhan begitu ke siswa agar harapannya apa? Siswa ini bisa mengerti apa yang akan diharapkan gurunya sehingga mereka bisa melaksanakan tes dengan baik. Thank you.
Thank you. So this one, I would like to share some inappropriate practices in assessment. So when let me see, at least like 15 years ago when I was a doctoral student, I did something, and my doctoral advisor did advise me about this. I do have a hard time to understand because back in China, I was a basketball coach and also track and field coach. So that's why after I teach everything, and then I conduct some assessment at the end only. But this is not necessarily an assessment. So actually, that's inappropriate. I don't understand at the beginning. So now I share my failure case with you to make you understand that. So if you conduct the assessment, it's really rare, or only one assessment at the end of the semester, and that's inappropriate because at the end of the semester, it means we ignore all the student efforts during the semester and during each physical education class. So the second thing is the teachers only assess physical fitness, which means how fast they can run and how maybe 800-meter run or 1,500-meter run or shot put. I mean, all these when you teach the basketball or whatever, we assess them their physical fitness, and that is not enough because a lot of a student they just cannot do it, but it doesn't mean the student did not try hard because it could be they are obese, but they try really hard during the semester. And I don't think we should fail them. All right. So in the US, you may not believe one thing that in a regular physical education class, so what is inequity could happen is if you teach, if you assess the student using physical fitness, maybe you want them to run really fast. However, some students just don't have the money to buy the shoes to run fast.
Hmm.
And then you assess them and say 100-meter, who run fast, who have 100% score. But some students just don't, their families just don't have money. But I can tell you that the school that I graduate from, at least 50% of the student, I mean 50, half of them, they are not
Hmm.
their family just cannot afford a Nike shoes. So if you conduct that assessment, that's inappropriate. You should consider everyone and make it fair to everyone as well. So number three, and assessment are not clear defined. So this one is easy. I will show you later what is a clear assessment, like a clear rubric later. So by some examples. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi tadi beliau sempat menyampaikan pengalaman beliau sebagai pelatih basket maupun atletik di Cina tentang bagaimana cara mengevaluasi siswanya. Dan ini adalah contoh evaluasi yang kurang tepat. Dicontohkan ada tiga. Yang pertama adalah satu penilaian saja di akhir semester atau penilaian itu sangat jarang. Nah, tentu ini juga menjadi hal yang berpotensi menghiraukan perkembangan atau proses belajar siswa, sehingga nanti diharapkan asesmen ini bisa lebih sering dilakukan untuk memantau proses dan perubahan hasil belajar tersebut. Kemudian yang kedua, guru ini hanya menilai satu indikator saja, yaitu misalnya psikomotor, seberapa cepat dia lari, seberapa jauh dia melompat, dan seterusnya. Nah, tentu ini sangat umum dilakukan di kita dan sering kita jumpai juga, namun tentu kita harus memperhatikan faktor-faktor atau variabel yang lainnya. Misalnya, kenapa siswa itu tidak bisa berlari cepat? Oh, jangan-jangan karena dia tidak mempunyai sepatu lari yang sesuai, karena orang tuanya tidak mampu membeli. Tapi dia sudah berusaha dan ada progres untuk hasil belajarnya. Atau yang kedua, memang secara fisikly siswa ini obes. Jadi dia tidak mungkin bisa lari cepat memecahkan rekor yang distandarkan oleh gurunya. Namun pada proses pembelajaran dia berusaha keras dan dia sudah menunjukkan hasil peningkatan hasil belajar yang signifikan. Yang ketiga, assessment test tidak dilaksanakan dengan jelas. Nah, nanti beliau akan mencontohkan di slide selanjutnya terkait bagaimana assessment yang tepat. Thank you, Profesor Kim.
Thank you very much. So the next one, I would like to share a second example of inappropriate assessment in PE. So, for instance, like your students are not sure what exactly is being tested, or I say measured. So they are not clear about what they are expected. So, which means we should tell the student what I am going to assess them at the beginning of the semester in general, or every single class what I expect a student to learn, and they know it and they won't get nervous. So an assessment is not multifaceted, but addresses only a single performance score on fitness. So fitness has two types of fitness: physical fitness and health related fitness. If I using a physical fitness, like how your pacer test, health related fitness pacer test, you only use one. So, and in a very inappropriate example, that happened 3 years ago in my students. One of my students teaching in Seattle is he teach basketball really well, and he's also in our college basketball team as well. and then he teach the shooting, and he teach the jump shot, and he also teach all kind of basketball passing, air pass, single hand pass, or overhand pass. He taught everything very well, very well. I mean, during the lesson, but he failed in the assessment. Can you believe that? Why? So he taught all these and he did not assess them. He utilized the health related fitness, which is a pacer test, like to test their cardiovascular endurance at the end of the semester, because you learn all these basketball skills, and it's very easy to think, if your cardiovascular is not good, how are you going to play the basketball, right? That's very logical, makes sense to us. But don't forget, he teach basketball shooting, he teach basketball passing, and he taught the jump shot. But at the end, he asked the student to he tested the student for the pacer test. It has nothing to do with that. All right. So I think, I mean, sometimes it makes these two things are not linked to each other unless you are coaching the student. You want them to play well. You want them to win. You want them to do the good things in the game. I have no problem with that. But since we are teaching jump shot, passing, you should assess how to pass. You should assess how to do the jump shot, not using the 800 meters to test them. All right. So thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi, it also happens in Indonesia. Jadi, Bapak Ibu mungkin ketika melakukan tes yang pertama harus dipastikan siswa ini memahami apa yang dilakukan. Contoh misalnya ketika kita menggunakan tes PACER atau MFT, siswa tidak tahu instruksinya atau cara penilaiannya sehingga mereka cenderung akan larinya lebih cepat di awal dan energinya habis. Padahal kita bukan itu yang diharapkan. Nah, untuk itu instruksi tes harus jelas dan siswa melakukan tes ini dengan percaya diri. Kemudian yang kedua, ini yang menarik. Jadi kalau kita mempelajari atau di kampus mempelajari terkait dengan tes dan pengukuran, biasanya kita menggunakan beberapa indikator-indikator yang lebih mudah dilakukan. Contoh misalnya, kita dalam satu semester ini topiknya adalah bola basket. Kita sudah ngajari bagaimana shooting, dribbling, passing, dan seterusnya. Namun di akhir semester yang kita tes sebagai nilai sumatifnya adalah tes kebugaran berupa PACER atau MFT misalnya. Nah, tentu kalau ini di PJOK tentu tidak relevan karena siswa diajarkan bagaimana cara mempelajari teknik di bola basket untuk mereka bisa meningkatkan kemampuan psikomotornya. Nah, namun ketika mereka tes yang dites adalah pesernya ya tentu yang banyak yang gagal karena tidak melatih kardio selama proses pembelajaran. Nah, tentu hal ini berbeda dengan kepelatihan. Kalau di kepelatihan kita bisa saja mereka tujuannya untuk menjadi tim yang hebat, tim yang bagus, maka peser salah satu hal yang diteskan untuk meningkatkan performa tim. Namun ini di PJOK, maka tes harus sesuai dengan apa yang kita ajarkan dalam satu semester tersebut. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you, Arif. So let us move on to the informal assessments. And I think this is some information that I would like to share within the informal assessment category. So while we do the informal assessment, so informal assessment is during that maybe 50 minutes, 1 hour, or maybe 1.5 hour teaching. So you get to check the students and if they learn. So if we only look at the end of the class to test them, and then basically as PE teachers, we ignore what's happening in the middle. What I say in the middle, it means the duration of your teaching. And I think that's the most important part for the students to experience your specialty out there that you put out for them. So for instance, and we get to give the students challenges. All right. You know, some of the students play badminton. They might already have some parents that play badminton well. They develop the badminton really well. They come to your class and literally he or she is better than any others. So we should give them the challenge task in order to keep them being motivated for the class. All right. So the second thing is many informal assessment are cognitive check for understanding. So if you teach the student badminton backhand serve you tell them, you share with them what are the cues of demonstrating an appropriate backend serve. So we should consistently ask the students all of all those cues during a teaching. But also, and I think everyone is good at it here, is you figure out they might develop some wrong skills. You provide a feedback to them during your teaching. These challenges and cognitive check for understanding and the feedback you give it to the students orally, and these are all informal assessment. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi ini adalah asesmen yang secara bisa dilakukan di kelas meskipun hanya dengan durasi waktu yang lebih pendek, sering disebut dengan asesmen informal. Caranya adalah ketika asesmen ini dilakukan di dalam pembelajaran, sehingga harapannya tes ini tidak hanya dilakukan di akhir pembelajaran sehingga kita menghiraukan proses yang ada. Nah, ini adalah beberapa poin yang sering terjadi. Yang pertama adalah siswa ini mereka melakukan apa namanya aktivitas ini mempunyai basic keterampilan yang berbeda. Misalnya di dalam kelas kita ada yang sudah punya basic badminton yang bagus, mungkin dari orang tuanya atau dari pengalaman belajar yang lainnya. Tentu kita harus memberikan tantangan yang khusus, yang lebih, sehingga mereka akan lebih termotivasi dalam asesmennya. Kemudian yang kedua, misalnya ketika mereka melakukan tes, ini tidak hanya melakukan, tetapi mereka memahami, sehingga bisa kita tanya gitu, kenapa kok kamu servisnya begitu, apa saja yang urutan-urutan untuk melakukan servisnya. Yang terakhir adalah bisa memberikan feedback jika ada siswa yang dirasa kurang memahami dan juga bisa ditingkatkan dengan menggunakan feedback yang tadi bisa diberikan. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
And yes, and thank you so much. So I would like to jump to some specific examples for us to understand what types of assessment that we could provide to the students. So in this slide, it has 5 assessment types. So number 1 is teacher observation. Second is exit slips. And the third is student journals. And fourth, homework. And the last one is peer observation. As you can see here, I steal one of the pictures from my doctoral advisor's book right there. So the students just holding a rubric and evaluate the students' throwing skills right there. So that's called peer evaluation. So Arif, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi ini adalah 5 jenis assessment yang bisa digunakan untuk penilaian formal. Yang pertama observasi guru, kemudian exit slips, yang ketiga adalah jurnal pembelajaran murid, yang ketiga adalah pekerjaan rumah, yang terakhir adalah observasi sejawat. Nah, ini adalah contoh gambar ilustrasi observasi sejawat yang dilakukan oleh siswa, yang cewek berdiri itu melempar, yang cowok itu mengevaluasi hasil lemparannya. Terima kasih, thank you.
Yes. And then the next one is so we can do self-assessment and also event tasks and digital recording and technology and assessment as well. You can use the iPad, I mean, some other Harry monitor, whatever. It really depends on what you want a student to learn at that point. So thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Dan selanjutnya bisa menggunakan asesmen evaluasi diri sendiri. Kemudian ada tugas. Kemudian yang selanjutnya ada video, membuat rekaman video performance-nya. Yang ketiga ini dengan digital atau teknologi assessment, kita bisa menggunakan aplikasi atau website yang dapat mengukur kemampuan siswa. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last 3 type of assessment is student drawings and student displays and portfolio. So I would like to explain every single of them in the later slides, but I would like to show you what are the available type of assessment actually we could do for K-12 students. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Dan selanjutnya adalah berupa gambar, mereka menggambar. Kemudian yang kedua adalah pajangan atau yang bisa di-display. Yang ketiga adalah portofolio. Nanti akan ditunjukkan oleh beliau contoh-contohnya dari masing-masing assessment yang tadi sudah disampaikan dari pre-K sampai kelas 3 SMA. Thank you.
Yes. So now The first one among all these 12 type of assessments, so teacher observation. So this is very common. I mean, it's not just in the US. Think about the observation that I do last year in Europe, or especially in Finland when I attend the conference over there, or Japan as well, and the USA, and back in my home country, China. So the teacher observation is very common. So basically, you have a rubric or you have some standards. You observe the student and then you grade them, and then you also provide your opinion to your assessment feedback to them. So basically, it is teacher-centered assessment. So you tell the student what's going on. You tell the student what's wrong. But when I teach my undergrad students here, I would like to challenge the undergrad students. For instance, I think Arif, for instance, right here, I think Arif interpret very well today. So that's my assessment to Dr. Arif right here today. But however, we want Arif to reflect on, does he know he's doing a good job? Am I making sense to everyone? So it
Ya.
is from Tan Jen to tell all the Indonesia fantastic PE teachers that Dr. Arif translate well, but there was no guarantee Dr. Arif, he knows he's doing a good job. So we might want to develop the assessment to help Dr. Arif to articulate in speaking, in writing, or in any other form of assessment to articulate, oh, I do a good job because I do this, 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 this. So that's why we empower the student to reflect on, rather than I tell the student you are doing a good job. And I can tell Dr. Charlie, hey, Arif is doing a good job. But however, he might question me, I don't see it. It's based on you. But if Arif is able to articulate based on some informal assessment you design in the future for your students, I think that's very interesting and it's very authentic. And the student will love it. Thank you,
Hmm.
Arif.
Thank you, Profesor Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu, ini adalah observasi guru asesmen yang paling umum digunakan dengan teacher center assessment, menggunakan rubrik dan tentu Bapak Ibu sudah familiar. Namun yang dikritisi adalah ketika kita melakukan asesmen ini, guru biasanya hanya memberikan penilaian tadi dicontohkan misalnya, oh moderatornya sudah melaksanakan tugas dengan baik. Nah, namun bisa jadi siswa ini tidak memahami apa yang dilakukan ini sudah baik atau tidak. Sehingga siswa diharapkan juga mampu membuat refleksi diri. Jadi ketika mereka ditanya gimana hasil belajarmu, mereka bisa menjelaskan, mengartikulasikan proses pembelajarannya, mendemonstrasikan hasil belajarannya, sehingga ini akan yang lebih otentik untuk menilai hasil belajar siswa dan siswa akan suka proses ini. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Arif. So, the second one, exit slip, and then we teach our undergrad student at Central Washington University a lot about this part because it normally helps the student to assess their cognitive domain if they understand, or the affective domain as well, like sportsmanship. But we don't call sportsmanship anymore in the US. So because we want to promote a gender we want to promote the gender differences, sportsman, and then you might get people to question you, why not? We cannot call sports womenship, So that's kind of something very interesting information to share with you. So in terms of the exit slip, so it has to be very succinct, which means short written pieces. As you could see right here, this is an exit slip from one of the second grade students. And you could see this is a very simple, and the writing it does not matter, but at least we give the student chance to reflect on what they learned. So they can write it down. And this is all the data for the teacher education accreditation standard. Because like I said before, you cannot just judge the students by your own rubric. You must empower the student to reflect, like this kind of a writing, and it's absolutely amazing out there. So and the good thing is, this type of assessment can be done in few minutes only. So you print it out, maybe one question, not necessarily need to four questions. So for instance, you teach backhand serve to the middle schooler, right? So what are the three cues of backhand serve? So, and you can ask the student simply and print it out maybe 30, 40 pieces paper. And at the end of the day, at the end of your class, you ask the student to fill it out. That's one thing to assess their cognitive domain, which is, do they understand what are the backhand serve skills right there? All right. So, Arif, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi ini adalah exit slips yang mungkin jarang kita dengar di pembelajaran kita di kurikulum nasional, namun sering banyak kita temui di kurikulum internasional dan ini salah satu contoh di US. Di setiap akhir pembelajaran atau di setiap pembelajaran mereka mempunyai satu refleksi dalam bentuk tulisan singkat, di mana tulisan singkat ini mengevaluasi pemahaman mereka secara kognitif atau bahkan secara afektif. Tadi dicontohkan misalnya secara kognitif, ketika materinya misalnya servis badminton, maka pertanyaannya bisa berupa bagaimana cara melakukan servis badminton yang baik. Dan pertanyaan ini tidak terlalu banyak, mungkin 1 sampai 3 pertanyaan, namun isinya adalah membuat siswa ini mampu memahami dan membuat refleksi diri. Secara efektif tadi disebutkan terkait dengan sportsmanship yang tidak digunakan lagi di sana karena sportman itu lebih ke gender laki-laki, sehingga afektif domain yang dilakukan misalnya bagaimana cara biar mereka secara optimal main badminton, apa yang harus ditingkatkan. Nah, itu mereka bisa merefleksikan secara mandiri. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you. So the next one, I would like to give you one example of student journal. So the journal, uh, you know, no matter in the USA or back in China or maybe Japan or Finland that I observed last year, everyone may know physical education, physical education. We are in the bottom of overall. They don't care about us. Okay, so I would like to share one philosophy with all of us today. So if we as PE teachers we consider we are at the bottom, then this is at the bottom. So if we only provide the assessment like only running 100-meter, 800-meter, or play the game like basketball game or badminton game at the end of the day, this is not comprehensive exam, and this is not comprehensive assessment. And we are doing very simple for the student and very direct. But other subject area, they do have different type of assessment. So that's why, and I think we could create more type of assessment to accommodate the students. For instance, like student journal. If you want the student to continue play badminton after they go back home, so how do you know? He can lie to you, and parents can lie to you as well. But I don't believe parents will lie. I mean, at least my day, if my parents will line up with the teachers to beat me up. I'm just kidding. So and then what's gonna happen is you ask the students to create the journal questions to guide the student to answer what you want the student to do. For instance, uh, how did you involve your family members during after school to play badminton, and then have their parents to help, or maybe have their parents to sign the paper as well if you want to, so they can reflect on what they have been doing after school. Because we recommend the student to do more physical activities after school, not just in the school in your physical education class. So that will help the student to be a lifelong learner rather than I only do good in your physical education class. So the student journal might be an extension for student learning. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. This is very interesting. Bapak Ibu, jadi ini adalah jurnal siswa yang sebenarnya sangat penting untuk mendukung eksistensi kita sebagai guru PJOK, di mana tidak hanya di Indonesia, ternyata PJOK ini juga tantangannya sama, dianggap tidak penting gitu ya. Dan kalau Bapak Ibu semua sebagai guru merasa bahwa penjas tidak penting ya, maka tidak penting gitu ya. Namun ini adalah hal yang harus kita dorong bersama-sama bahwa ketika kita mengajarkan pada siswa ini adalah bagian dari mereka untuk lifelong learner, pembelajar sepanjang hayat. Artinya kita bisa memberikan mereka pekerjaan rumah di mana mereka bisa secara sungguh-sungguh melaksanakannya dan melibatkan orang terdekat bisa orang tua maupun temannya. Sehingga jurnal siswa ini tidak hanya sebagai tulisan tetapi memang benar-benar ada proses yang mereka terlibat di dalamnya menyusun dengan sungguh-sungguh dan akhirnya benar-benar belajar untuk menjadi line love learner tadi. Terima kasih, Prof. Kin. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next one, I think, I mean, we might be confused by journal or homework. Basically, journal, you ask the student to spend like 2 or 3 paragraphs to write it down. What did they do in the community or in the class after the school? So another things, homework. You might say, okay, I've already have journal. How am I gonna have homework? No, 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 no. So it's something that you could alter what it means based on what you want to know from the students after school. So homework is another thing for physical education assessment. So when you can look at this screenshot right there. So basically, we involve a parent signature right there. So we also ask the student, have your parents sign and date a record or bring it to the school? Or what do they do actually? Do they do jump rope or jogging, or you're playing soccer, or you're playing basketball after the school? So maybe only 5 minutes, it works because we don't want to discourage your student not to do anything. Because physical education in the school day, we teach them the skills. We motivate them to keep being physical active after school. So that's why I will encourage the physical education teachers use your best teaching practice and keep the student being motivated, and they can continue doing physical activity after school. So rather they only perform good in your class. All right, so that's the homework. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi ini kalau di sana ada PR ya untuk mata pelajaran PJOK dan PR-nya ini dilaksanakan di sekolah, di rumah setelah mereka selesai pembelajaran. Namun mungkin kita bertanya apa bedanya jurnal dan PR? Kalau jurnal itu lebih kepada refleksi mereka apa yang sudah dilakukan. Namun PR itu ada tugas gerak dari gurunya. Jadi diharapkan siswa ini tidak hanya bagus atau mereka semangat ketika latihan di sekolah, namun di rumah ya tidak ngapa-ngapain, namun bisa berikan PR berupa tugas gerak apa saja tugas geraknya, dilakukan berapa kali, dan diketahui oleh orang tuanya, ditandatangani, dan dikirimkan kembali ke sekolah. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you very much. So the next one, peer observation. So like I just show you a couple slides before. So here is some example ideas I would like to share. So, but one thing that not just the student from other country, they may not like the peer evaluation or peer observation. I'm saying right here. So we might question, if the student don't know the skill, how do they assess each other? And that's hard, and that's not going to be objective. And I think that question is very legitimate, because the student, they try to learn the skill from you, so now you want the student to assess each other. That becomes challenge. However, this is student-centered assessment. So how should we do? And if you want a student to do a peer observation and peer assessment, and for instance, so we should design the assessment form simply and distribute to the students, and they can easily read through the assessment form and simply assess. For instance, the badminton backhand serve. You provide 5 cues to them and have the student to observe other students, and then they check the box or they check the checklist. And that makes easier for your class if you have 50 students in your class for one day. Okay, so, but I will not recommend do peer observation in the elementary level because basically they may not have that many knowledge, or I'm talking about vocabulary. They may not have that many Indonesian vocabulary to understand what you're writing right there. Unless you printed out some pictures, that might work. So that's elementary physical education PE does that. But that's a lot of work more than you implement this into middle school or high school. That's totally work, at least in my undergrad program. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi ini yang juga menarik Bapak Ibu. Jadi ada namanya peer observation atau penilaian dari teman sejawat. Nah, tidak hanya gurunya ya, siswanya juga menilai sejawat. Nah, tantangannya adalah apakah siswa dalam menilai ini hasilnya sesuai dengan rubrik yang kita tentukan. Nah, tentu ini adalah tantangan untuk diselesaikan. Namun pada prinsipnya kenapa diterapkan ini? Karena ini merupakan bagian dari student center. Jadi siswa bisa menjadi pemeran penting untuk belajar dan juga untuk memberikan evaluasi. Nah, caranya adalah asesmennya dibuat dengan sederhana. Contoh misalnya tadi badminton serve backhand, maka ada 5 kriteria dan mungkin bisa diberikan penjelasan yang bahasanya sederhana, mudah dipahami, dan rubriknya adalah iya dan tidak. Misalnya temannya melakukan servis, sikunya di atas enggak, atau kaki kanannya di depan enggak, dan seterusnya. Itu lebih sederhana. Namun tidak direkomendasikan untuk siswa SD karena secara prinsip dan konsep mereka mungkin tidak belum bisa dilibatkan untuk memahami indikator-indikator yang sudah dituliskan oleh guru. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you. So next one, and this is the self-assessment. You will see I introduce a lot of student-centered assessment here today, including this self-assessment. So let me just go ahead and give you this example. So as you know, any kind of a sports and it follows only three pathways. It does not matter what kind of a sport you are teaching, and it only has three pathways. One, it is straight line. The second one the second line is the curve right there, or the zigzag. So you play the basketball if you do a bounce pass, and that's a zigzag. If you do a overhead pass, that's gonna be a curve. If you do a chest pass, if your strength is powerful enough for maybe 10 meters away, that's going to be a straight pass. When you kick a soccer ball, it's still the same thing. When you play badminton, that's still the same thing. And then you only have three pathways. So that's why when I teach a students those movement concepts, including the pathways right there, so I will design this type of self-assessment sheets for the students in the middle or during my class teaching right there for the undergrad. So to teach them, all right, here are some questions, here are some pictures that you could use and provide to the K to 12 students. They can do a self-assessment. All right. So those are kind of those are informal assessment and also part of the data that prove your teaching is quite effective. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu ini juga menarik asesmen diri atau kita bisa memberikan siswa berupa pertanyaan-pertanyaan berikut. Nah, contohnya di pertanyaan nomor 1 itu, kita misalnya temanya bola basket, passing gitu ya. Kira-kira passing apa yang sesuai untuk menggambarkan pola tersebut? Misalnya kalau lurus, garis lurus gitu ya, artinya kan kita harus passing dengan jarak yang sangat jauh dan langsung ke depan, misalnya fast break gitu ya. Maka apa passingnya? Chest pass. Nah, kemudian yang zigzag itu apa? Misalnya butuh untuk passing yang lebih eh, cepat karena mungkin kita dalam zona defense lawan, maka kita menggunakan bounce pass. Nah, ini bisa juga untuk menguji kemampuan mahasiswa dalam memahami penggunaan atau memahami bagaimana teknik tersebut itu digunakan di dalam real situation. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you so much. So the next one, the next one here I would like to share, it's event task. Let me give you something that I believe everyone did that. So each year we have maybe a track and field school day, one or two. So if you teach those 100-meter dash and the javelin throwing and shot put, all this, we run that kind of event task. It could be very short. We don't need to run the whole thing. But once
Hmm.
you teach such different skills or events to the students, that could be something that being part of the student learning and being part of the student assessment as well. So and I don't think I need to spend that much time to explain this part, but the let me say the this part, the challenge is you need to spend way more time for preparation because that's a track and field things, for instance, or maybe a badminton tournament for that at the end of the semester. That could be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu ini juga menarik. Tugas kegiatan ini tidak hanya tugas dalam bentuk tes ataupun kegiatan yang berupa latihan maupun performance, namun bisa diwujudkan dalam turnamen di akhir pembelajaran. Nah, tujuannya apa? Ini bisa membantu siswa dalam mereka mencari atau mempelajari psikomotor digabungkan dengan aspek yang lain, dan tentu ini merupakan hal yang memotivasi siswa untuk bersama-sama dengan teman-temannya berkolaborasi untuk belajar bersama. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So this part, digital recording, and I think we all use that a lot during the COVID-19 session. So I think this part is easy, but it also provide some of the students, they maybe they spend a time with, especially in the US. I still think, I mean, sometimes it gets very flexible. So if they some of the parents, they will take out the student for hunting, and they don't participate in our classes 1 or 2 weeks, but we want them to do some assignments. We give it to them, the guidelines very specific. We want them to videotape what do they do, and then they share those video for us, so the student can do a self analysis, and the student can show off their knowledge or any critical perspective of one skill out there. If they cannot physically participate in the school, but they have to leave the school for two weeks, for instance. I think the digital recording works very well. But now that becomes a really interesting idea for physical education teachers to do that. All right. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi digital recording kalau kita memaknainya mungkin membuat video, namun apa yang harus kita tekankan seperti halnya di COVID pandemi kemarin, kita tentu menyiapkan tugas berupa mereka membuat rekaman video secara mandiri. Namun jangan lupa diberikan satu namanya guideline bagaimana cara mereka melakukannya. Kemudian berikan kesempatan siswa ini untuk melakukan evaluasi secara mandiri terkait dengan apa yang sudah mereka lakukan, dan mereka diberikan kesempatan untuk menjelaskan apa yang sudah mereka lakukan, apakah ada evaluasi maupun feedbacknya. Terima kasih. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Yeah, wonderful. So the this part I love the most because I'm also teaching the elementary physical education teaching method to the students. So the student drawing, when I first time introduced this type of assessment to students, to undergrad university students, and they were surprised. They don't think this is an assessment, and they don't think this. I'm kidding right there, and because they all coming from they just graduate from high school, because they never thought and never been assessed by allowing them to draw a picture to show, okay, I understand this part. And so that's pretty funny. I mean, when my undergrad student just sharing their perspective to me every single year, because every single year there's a different physical education student coming to learn. So let me give you some example, specific example right there. So I am teaching a class like kicking skills or kicking a soccer ball. So you are telling the students if you want them to control the soccer well, so they are supposed if you want to kick really hard and the ball can go really further, and student will like to use and the toes right there to kick the soccer ball. Okay, so in this context, and the student cannot say the English term, the toes, or the back of the top of their shoes. There was a lot of English words right there. But however, because this is a second grade, like I said, this is a second grade, then I'm sorry. So this is a second grade, so they don't have that many vocabularies. So now drawing, the student understand because they can see that. So that's why the student draw the pictures. Yes, they understand. I'm using the toes or the top of my shoes to kick the soccer ball. So that shows their cognitive domain, they understand. All right. So thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kina. This is also very interesting. I saw some of our audience are laughing and uh, while you explaining the slides. But oke, jadi Bapak Ibu di sini adalah karya gambar yang digunakan untuk mengevaluasi. Kenapa diperlukan gambar seperti ini? Karena pada dasarnya ketika kita ngajar di siswa mungkin di sekolah dasar ya, mereka tidak bisa menjelaskan dengan kata, dengan kalimat. Namun mereka bisa menjelaskan dengan gambar. Misalnya, coba gambarkan bagaimana cara menendang sepak bola yang benar. Nah, ketika mereka presentasi, mereka pasti blebek-blebek kalau bahasa Jawanya ya mesti belum terbiasa. Namun ketika mereka mendemonstrasikan di kelas pasti bisa, banyak yang bisa. Nah, untuk mereka lebih memahami lagi, maka mereka diberikan tugas agar mereka bisa merefleksikan asesmen ini dalam bentuk gambar sehingga mereka bisa menunjukkan, oh maksudnya itu mendengar dengan punggung kaki itu ini loh. Makanya dia berusaha untuk mewujudkan di gambarnya itu yaitu punggung kaki yang digunakan untuk menendang bola. Nah, ini karyanya siswa kelas 2 SD gitu. Thank you, Prof. Kim.
Yes, I think my computer does not have battery, so let
Yep.
me just charge that. I
Yes,
asked my
please.
wife. Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully it works. Yes, it's charging now.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. So yep. And then let us move on to the student display. So the student display, and like I said today, we taught the future PE teachers in here. We use student center. So student center assessment is one of the funnest part for us, and also challenge our thinking as well, because we all grew up like in China. I grew up as like this, the teachers just teach me and assess me how fast I am running. Like when I was in undergrad program in China, and swimming, baseball, badminton, they test us skill test. If the skill test cannot do it, and then you fail. But however, after landed in the USA, I totally get why at the end of the day, their students, why when they go to those sports later, when they grow up, why they are better than us. It's just because we utilize the different assessment here to empower the student to enjoy the physical education and enjoy the physical activity or enjoy the sports in particularly. So this is one thing that the student love the most, at least our undergrad students right here. So the student display after they learning everything, and I can organize a public speaking, and I can run a poster, like the student go to everywhere after their student teaching. We can ask the student to develop a poster or a trifolder, and then they can stick on their lesson planning, and they can stick on their teaching pictures to show off what they have been doing in student teaching. But the same thing in the K to 12 physical education. If you teach if you teach the students different sports, and they play in the community or they attend some club competition, And we can ask the students to share those pictures by conducting those student display assessment. But this is why it's relevant. Like I said at the very beginning of the lecture today, the sharing lecture today, is we have affective domain. The affective domain, it means how do we value badminton? How do we value the sports? So by sharing those pictures, sharing their maybe fun moment with you or with the class, and that's part of the assessment within the affective domain. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you. Wow, this is also interesting. The same case happen in Indonesia. Bapak Ibu mungkin kalau ngajar masih ngetesnya seberapa cepat siswanya berlari, seberapa jauh siswanya melempar dan seterusnya. Maka ini terjadi di Cina beberapa tahun yang lalu saat Prof. Kin ini belajar di sana. Nah, namun faktanya ini juga yang menjadi penyebab kenapa kok banyak siswa kita yang aras-arasan ketika pelajaran olahraga. Banyak yang takut ketika pelajaran olahraga karena mereka tidak termotivasi. Bawaannya wah nanti kalau saya pelajaran tidak bisa melakukannya malu, takut, gagal begitu nggih. Namun pada dasarnya kita bisa merubah ini menjadi siswa ini memotivasi ketika mereka ikut pelajaran itu senang. Mereka ikut pelajaran itu termotivasi dan mereka akan terus membuat kesan yang baik yaitu dengan apa? Dengan kita memotivasi siswa agar mereka mendokumentasikan karyanya berupa mungkin ya foto pada saat latihan, foto pada saat kegiatan, dan momen-momen ini yang nantinya akan dijadikan sebagai karya untuk portofolio maupun karya untuk hasil belajar siswa yang lebih bermakna. Sehingga apapun hasilnya, apapun kegiatannya, maka siswa ini akan memaknainya dengan kenangan-kenangan yang bagus sehingga mereka akan setelah lulus dari sekolah, setelah keluar dari kelas PJOK mereka akan tetap senang untuk melakukan olahraga. Thank you Prof. Kin.
Thank you very much. I try to connect my charger right here. I think I finally got a good one. So thank you very much. So
Thank you.
I guarantee I don't have that many slides left, so I'll be quick. And thank you very much for everyone's time today. So the next I would like to share it is still challenge our thinking portfolio. So why portfolio? I mean, first time I learned it, I'll be honest. As a Chinese, I was laughing at the school, all my professors, because and and this is completely demolished what I have experienced before. As a PE teacher, I never experienced that. I never saw that. But however, the portfolio actually gives the student to show off everything that what they learn. It could be during the semester, it could be during a school year. So, but that kind of assessment, it actually empower the student to collect all information that they learn from your badminton class, basketball class, and some of the sportsmanship that we just mentioned and smile together, and some other things. How do they collaborate with each other, including their drawing the pictures, and some of the wonderful assessment that you during the class, give it to them, and they just put everything into a portfolio. It's very thick, I understand that, but this is the most meaningful part that I've ever seen after I done that and observed the student teacher that did that, because all the students in physical education, we always thinking about physical skills and demonstrate that's it. The teacher will judge me and give me the grade. But as a K to 12 students, I know this is a lot of a work, but after collecting everything together and they see physical education is that much things. I have learned so much in physical skills and cognitive learning and affective learning as well. So that's why the portfolio, it could becomes the most meaningful product for students. Thank you very much.
Thank you Prof. Kin. Jadi ini yang juga bisa dilakukan Bapak Ibu. Portofolio itu apa? Portofolio itu adalah bagian kita untuk memotivasi siswa dalam mengumpulkan hasil karyanya. Dan ini sangat penting karena ketika mereka belajar itu harapannya tidak selesai kelas sudah selesai, tapi mereka tetap ingat gitu ya. Jadi yang tempelkan di situ ya semuanya ya hasil belajar, ya hasil gambar yang tadi, hasil evaluasi guru itu semuanya dituliskan dan ada buktinya sehingga mereka tetap ingat apa yang dipelajari selama pembelajaran PJOK di satu semester atau satu tahun itu. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Yep, thank you. So the next one is rubric. I'll quite honest, design a rubric, it needs a lot of a time before the class. And that's why our student hates that. And they don't like it because they need to spend so much time. If you could bear with me and I can share one rubric with all of you here today. So support, I think Dr. Charlie, I'm not sure he shared this part with all of you, but he was part of developing this webpage with Kevin Shepard, our longtime doctoral classmate. So if you can, this is free, and this is free. So let us just type in rubric right there. As you could see, tools for assessing behaviors, rubric for assessments. And you could see it, 6 types of rubric. Okay, so let us see this one. All right, so this is one thing that what we call it assess the students. You stay with 3 or 4 feet of self for doing what? For doing one kind of a sports. So this is the rubric that we would like the student to develop. And as you could see, and this is ridiculous. I mean, why? It's just a badminton serve skill. I needed to spend that much time for that. But actually, the student will know you care about them. Normally, our student will do. At least when I do, I set it up. This is 3 points, this is 2 points, and this is 1 point. It could be 0 point at the end. But however, you don't explain to the student what does it mean 3 points, 2 points, or 1 point. And that's why when I spend time to design all this to the students, and they feel, okay, the teacher respect my opinion. The teacher knows, okay, he want me to do this. This is very specific. For instance, like, is your eyes up? All right. So that kind of a things you actually empower the student to think. And rubric is being part of a very popular and authentic assessment in physical education. Thank you very much, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu ini kesukaan kita ya. Jadi kalau kita di Indonesia mungkin biasanya kalau ada informasi yang langsung ada contohnya itu langsung cepat gitu. Dan tadi di-share contoh-contoh rubrik yang sangat detail dan komprehensif di websitenya tadi, Support Real Teacher yang juga dikembangkan oleh Prof. Charlie. Nanti Bapak Ibu bisa pantau di sana, namun pada prinsipnya rubrik itu membantu kita membuat asesmen yang lebih komprehensif dan lebih bisa dipertanggungjawabkan. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you very much. And let us move on to, this is the grading, I think. Did I miss that?
It's okay. Wait.
Yes, that's still the rubric.
Yeah.
I get this is rubric, and here is grading number 1. So I think grading everyone is already familiar with, but a couple things I would like to share with us today is this part. So I think Dr. Charlie interpret this part very well. So in your grading, as a PE teacher, we normally just tell the student, yeah, what you got, 80% or 90%, but we have to specify as clear as possible. Like, in each grade, what does it mean in relation to the standard on the rubric? So if we talk about the standards right here, and I think Arif and Dr. Charlie already did, I mean, for the physical education in Indonesia, and develop those learning outcomes. So outcomes and standards, I mean, the US just call it standards, but actually it is learning outcome. And I think Dr. Charlie and Arif, they explained this quite well in your country right there. So these are all the learning outcomes. So we should be very clear when you grade. and not has to be vague because like I said in the rubric, 3 point, 2 point, 1 point, and it means nothing to the student. They only know 3, 2, 1, those Arabic number. But while you explain, describe it, 3 points, it means you're doing this perfect job. You perform all the backhand serve cues and you did a good job. So the student know, oh, I did all the cues in backhand serve badminton, and that's why you have 3 points, not just 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. They don't know. They only know, oh man. And if you using the other day why I failed a student because you teach backhand serve and then you test them 5 hula hoops, they landing to 4 out of 5. They don't know their skill if it is correct or not. They don't know. You get to explain that. And that's why when you grade and you provide those description to the student in details. Thank you, Arif.
Thank you, Prof. Kin. Very interesting. Jadi Bapak Ibu, kalau penilaian kita masih nilainya berapa 90 atau A atau B tanpa ada penjelasan, maka sebenarnya ini juga menimbulkan kebingungan kepada siswa dan juga mempengaruhi motivasi mereka dalam belajar. Karena apa? Mereka bisa saja ketika dapat nilai 90 dan 92 ya tidak tahu apa bedanya. Namun yang disarankan adalah harus clear, harus jelas sesuai dengan learning outcome. Dicontohkan tadi misalnya ketika siswa dapat grade 1, 2, 3, 4, misalnya 1 belum bisa melakukan, 2 bisa melakukan dengan bantuan, 3 bisa melakukan tanpa bantuan, 4 bisa melakukan dan bisa membantu. Nah, ini kan informasi-informasi ini yang jelas dan bisa dinarasikan dalam grade atau nilai siswa tadi. Thank you, Prof. Kin.
Thank you, Arif. And then the last two slides, basically, I would like to share some challenges when you do the assessment. But besides time, I could not give you more effective tips how to do assessment. So basically, we need to spend a lot of time to design the assessment, and also keep it in mind. I would like to recommend is to understand what is student-centered assessment. It means we give the power to students. That kind of a little bit challenge based on the different contexts. I practice almost 5 years or whatever to understand why, as a PE teacher, I know everything, right? I'm the best in badminton, best in basketball. Why I give you the power to judge? I mean, or give you the power. So I am the best. But remember, I think the student itself themselves, they do like to be empowered because you care about them, not just the learning skills. You care about them about if they are a good person. That's why a lot of a student would like to talk with PE teachers, not the classroom teachers, because they like us. So that's why when you do those empowerment in your student in your teaching to all the K-12 students, I think this is keep it in mind. I would recommend is student center, and that gives you a lot even more power to teach the students. So one last things I would like to share with all of us, it is Arif, do you want to interpret this last part before I share the web page again?
Oh, you can continue to the web page.
Okay, so let us go to the web page right here. That this is free. You can write that down. Is supportrealteachers.org. So we have the assessment. If you want to copy and paste and implement in your classroom, this has assessment in physical education. You can find all the information that I just shared with you through the last 90 minutes. And thank you for everyone's patience. So the types of assessment, exit sleep, journal, portfolio, what they do. Let me just click the portfolio for you, and you can see it. I mean, here is article and some of the Instagram, all these information over there. So you could basically see how PE teachers or how Kevin Shepard and Dr. Charlie, they contribute to this web page before. All right, so including peer observation, all these, and you could see here is a teacher observation assessment type. You can just download it as PDF, and this is free for all of you. And some of the America webpage, it's not good. They don't provide free things for us. But this webpage, Kevin Shepard updated this page every single week. If they see any new things, they will post on that. So feel free to download all these. Feel free to utilize those in your class. And I think that will be wonderful for everyone to have it. So thank you very much for everyone's time today. I'm going to stop right here and then pass the baton back to Dr. Charlie and Arif. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Profesor Kin. Jadi Bapak Ibu tadi tidak hanya dapat ilmu, tapi dapat oleh-oleh ya. Jadi tadi beberapa website, beberapa materi yang ada di website nanti bisa digunakan sebagai bahan kita untuk mengajar di kelas kita masing-masing. So thank you so much again for such an insightful and inspiring presentation. We learned so much and also we get some gift from the website. Thank you for everything. So now can we proceed to the Q&A session? Maybe one or two questions for Q&A. Ya, jadi Bapak Ibu monggo jika ada pertanyaan kami persilahkan satu atau dua penanya. Jika tidak ada,
Izin Pak Arif.
Ya, singkat Pak, monggo silahkan langsung ke pertanyaannya.
Saya ingin bertanya tentang asesmen ini Pak. Jadi dengan kondisi kasus kita di Indonesia ini kan banyak beda-beda tentunya dengan negara kita yang luas. Nah, dari asesmen dan rubrik penilaian yang disampaikan Pak Dr. Lian tadi, saya ingin bertanya bagaimana objektivitasnya nanti dengan penilaian akhir raport laporan akhir per tingkatan naik kelas tentang PJOK itu sendiri, Pak Arif. Ini yang ingin saya tanyakan. Kenapa? Kebetulan saya di SMA. Sebenarnya pendekatan kita itu apakah mendekati sebenarnya tentang olahraga itu sendiri seperti bola voli? Apakah pendekatannya memang bagaimana layaknya bola voli atau seperti apa? Ini kan tentunya nanti minat anak, minat siswa itu yang sangat berpengaruh. Tentunya ada beberapa anak yang memang sama sekali tidak berminat. Ini yang olahraga. Jadi apapun kita berikan, mereka memang tidak minat seperti itu. Jadi
Pak Edward,
bagaimana penilaian akhirnya nanti? Ini yang ingin saya tanyakan. Terima kasih.
Terima
Pak
kasih. Pak Edward, sebelum kita tanyakan ke beliau, penilaiannya jangan pakai angka atau pakai huruf ABC?
Ya, kita biasanya masih pakai angka, Pak Arif.
Oke, siap.
Ya.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Professor Kin. This is questions which also relating to us. Since you have informed us there are so many kind of assessment, and those assessment are very interesting, and we want to try it. But in Indonesia, we have a system that every last semester we need to make a report to the parents, which only has one score. And in the end, maybe had 90 or 70 or any score. The question is how we can elaborate every assessment tools that you have just shared. And I think this is also a question for all of us because when we convert it into the number, how you convert into the number and make it more visible for the parents to understand what the number means.
Well, thank you very much for that question. And I think I asked a similar question when I learned this because I grew up in China before I immigrated to this country. So so we have a similar system, and I could not say it's the same thing, but it's very similar. We only have one thing at the end of the day. In China, still the same thing. Still the same thing. After like 30 years, and I am 45 years old, they did not change anything. Still using one thing to conduct that. But I would like to suggest you and share with everyone my solution for that. If I have time to go back, and here is what I will do. So look at those 12 type of assessments, and you could see which one it is the teacher is teacher center. What are the ones a student center? If the teacher center fits in the Indonesian culture, and I think those are the ones that you should adopt that first, because it's nothing wrong with culture. It could be something wrong with those assessment. It may not fit in the Indonesian culture or the Chinese culture. And for instance, there's something that it will not work for Japan. And I've already tested that. It will not work for Finland as well. But however, with all these options for you, you could look at what are the assessment that is teacher center if you think that fits the Indonesia culture. But don't forget one thing is you guys have a curriculum outcome out there. You need to line up with those curriculum outcome. So what the student needs to learn. And then here was what I taught my undergrad students before is you have a learning outcome right there. So and then look at those 12 assessment, which one is the best to serve and address that learning outcome. So for instance, the badminton backhand serve. Again, I use badminton a lot. I love the badminton. And then Charlie and I play badminton together only one time back in the States. So it is if you think the backhand serve needs to meet up the standards, and I think teacher observation always work. But one thing that I would like to suggest is we need to go more deeper to tell the student under each rubric which one. So you have 90%, you have 190 or 80. So you have to explain that. Why? So that's why my undergrad student may not like that because you need to spend so much time just for one class. But as a teacher, unfortunately, to tell and share with all of you, I've taught in the USA for almost 2 decades, 20 years. My lesson plan and my syllabus for the undergrad students every year is different. So I spend time to do that, and I think that's the only thing keep me feel I am still alive. So that's that shows I care about the students. I learned that from our doctoral advisor. She's still able to return email, give us feedback, even though after 12 a.m. at the nighttime. So we have a pretty good teacher. That's why I just want to be that kind of a teacher. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Profesor Kim. Jadi Bapak Ibu ternyata di Cina sampai sekarang pun masih dengan penilaian yang sama seperti Indonesia. 1 angka di akhir semester di rapot gitu nggih. Namun pertanyaannya tadi apakah bagaimana cara kita mengelaborasi dari 12 assessment tool tadi gitu nggih. Nah, disampaikan oleh beliau kita bisa memilih mana assessment tool yang akan kita gunakan untuk nilai rapot. Dan yang paling penting adalah rapot itu kan dokumen yang dari sekolah. Bapak Ibu boleh loh menambahkan atau mengirimkan hasil misalnya portofolionya atau hasil tesnya di bersama rapot itu. Jadi misalnya siswa dapat nilai 90, portofolio atau rubrik-rubrik yang tadi sudah assessment tool yang sudah disampaikan itu bisa dilampirkan. Sehingga contohnya misalnya teacher observation dari rubriknya Bapak Ibu tadi nilainya 90 itu artinya apa? Itu bisa dilampirkan di dokumen pendamping rapot untuk siswa. Mungkin begitu. Terima kasih Pak Edward pertanyaannya. Prof. Cali boleh satu lagi atau sudah cukup?
Sama-sama,
Satu lagi,
Dr.
Pak. Boleh.
Terima kasih.
Satu
Oke.
lagi boleh, Pak.
Prof. Cali mohon izin satu lagi apakah boleh? Karena waktunya memang sudah ini.
Boleh
Pak
nggak,
Prof?
Prof?
Mungkin Bapak Ibu mohon maaf karena waktunya memang sudah cukup.
Sedikit, Pak.
Cukup.
Ditanya aja Kak, Prof Kin,
ditanya aja.
barangkali kalau one more question, is that okay for you,
Iya.
Kin?
So, Kin, is it okay for one last question?
Yeah.
Ayo.
Ya,
Profesor
bisa.
Kin?
Okay,
Ayo.
with a lot of a question. No worry.
Okay. So, we'll just limit one last question. Silakan, Pak.
Oke. Thank you very much for this change. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Ucu dari Universitas Galuh, Pak Prof. Ini sebagai lonjakan yang luar biasa, inovasi yang luar biasa tentang evaluasi pembelajaran di kita. Saya tergelitik mengenai itu, Prof, mengenai laporan yang dilaporkan ke orang tua. Jadi kita bisa mempunyai 2 rapot sebetulnya. Yang pertama rapot di mata pelajaran, yang kedua rapot keseluruhan. Nah, ini rapat pembelajaran penjas ini bisa dilaporkan satu materi, misalkan satu laporan. Jadi nanti misalkan sekarang pembelajaran bola basket, ya nanti bisa dilaporkan ke orang tua hasil dari misalkan CESPAS-nya berapa, kemudian kekurangannya di anak apa gitu. Kemudian senam misalkan, kegiatan roll depan, nanti dilaporkan ke orang tua mengenai hasil belajar yang dilakukan di sekolah. Kemudian nanti ada feedback juga dari orang tua mengenai proses pembelajaran yang dilakukan anak. Itu yang ingin saya sampaikan, Prof. Dr. Arif. Thank
Terima
you.
kasih, Pak Ucu. Professor Kin, Dr. Ucu is also a lecturer in one of the university in Indonesia. He's asking, actually in Indonesia we can get two report for the parents, the subject report as you mentioned in portfolio or any assessment tools that you have mentioned, we can make into one additional report for the parents, and one is the official one, which is only one grade or one score. How do you think about these methods? Do you also give us? Can you also give us some recommendation about how to make it more effective for the report?
Yeah, thank you. So I forgot how to pronounce the Professor is it Oku, right? You say,
Yeah.
and yeah, thank you very much. I think I am able to share some example with you because I am also the Washington State Teacher Education Accreditation Reviewer and also the US Cape Teacher Education Reviewer. In terms of the reports, if you only have one, I do believe you have the benchmark out there, right? So if I understood correctly, so what you could do is if they only have one benchmark, but you have all these type of assessment, for instance, like portfolio, and I think how are you gonna evaluate the student's portfolio and link it to what the government wants or what your school principal wants? And you show them this is what the student did. And I think it runs very well in Japan because the parents like to see that. But it does take more time for student to worry about, okay, I've already done a good job in your class, and why do I need to have a homework? Because in PE, if you're talking about homework in any other country in Asia, I can guarantee we all line up the same. What are you talking? I mean, I need to do English homework. I need to do math homework. Why PE needs a homework? Well, the reason we promote that is just like when a student learn it, even though at the college level, I always use portfolio for every single class because at the end of the day, and the student collect the portfolio. So now we use electronic one. Not 10 years ago, I asked student to print it out. It is almost 5 centimeters thick. So once they see that and they think, oh, I learned that much, you actually provide the opportunity for my department chair, the students, and our dean, the college dean as well. And these students learn that much. But the only thing that takes you more time to write a report is your rubric. How are you going to evaluate the portfolio? And I think that part it's also if you now the AI it's a lot. We use AI as well, so don't feel guilty if you ask the AI to help you to develop the rubric to evaluate the portfolio. So this is how we just submit that program reports and we use the portfolio. The portfolio works almost everything for us because that shows the student learning. Essentially, they are learning for the last couple of years and including every single class as well. I understand that's a lot of work, and it is quite frustrating that we, as a college professor, or maybe the PE teachers, they need to spend that much time for it. But after we submit all these data, we call it data, it actually changed a lot of other subject teachers' mind and change the administrator's mind because they thought, okay, PE, finally, you are doing teaching out there. You're not doing coaching out there. We actually receive way more respect than others, than a history professor or English professor. They never thought we can do that. But yes, we did that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Profesor Kin. Jadi mohon maaf ya Bapak Ibu karena waktunya sudah sangat terbatas. Jadi izin ini pertanyaan terakhir yang dijawab oleh beliau. Jadi sangat bagus jika kita bisa mengelaborasikan rapot tambahan by subject, misalnya portofolio. Ini sudah terlaksana di negara-negara maju lain seperti Jepang, dan ini juga menjadi salah satu poin plus untuk guru kita. Jadi kita itu selama ini dipandang tidak penting, tapi dengan adanya portofolio, oh ternyata akhirnya kita menjadi mata pelajaran yang dinanti-nanti. Karena siswa pengen tahu bagaimana progresnya mereka, orang tua juga pengen tahu, begitu juga dengan sekolah. Sehingga harapan kami ini bisa dikembangkan budaya positifnya. Memang butuh banyak waktu, banyak tenaga untuk mengerjakan, namun ini juga menjadi salah satu hal yang menguatkan posisi kita bahwa pendidikan jasmani itu bagian yang penting, tidak hanya bagian pelengkap begitu. Terima kasih sekali Bapak Ibu kami ucapkan untuk pertanyaan dan waktunya. And thank you so much again for Professor Kin for sharing and for the insightful presentation. Yeah, and Prof.
I want to
Cali,
comment from Prof. Sali, please.
bagaimana Pak
About
Ujo?
my question. I want to comment from Prof. Sali about my question. Little.
Bapak, mohon maaf, mungkin kita cukupkan Gih, karena sudah over 1:30. Kita,
Oke, thank you.
Terima kasih, mohon maaf. Gih, jadi terima kasih sekali lagi kami sampaikan kepada pemateri kita hari ini, Prof. Kin, atas paparan yang inspiratif dan luar biasa terkait dengan assessment. And on behalf of the organizing committee and all participant of the Forum Komunikasi Pengelola Program Studi Pendidikan Jasmani Indonesia, we sincerely appreciate the time, your dedication, and your valuable contribution in this session. And hopefully we can invite you in the next session, Prof. Kin. Jadi terima kasih atas nama panitia FKPPS, kami mengucapkan apresiasi yang sebesar-besarnya untuk pemateri dan harapannya kita bisa mengundang beliau kembali ya, karena rasanya tidak cukup, kita butuh banyak sharing untuk lebih dalam lagi mempelajari bersama-sama. We also thank to all participants for your active engagement, thoughtful question through the session. May the today discussion continue to inspire us to strengthen assessment practice and to elevate the quality of physical education in Indonesia and beyond. Jadi kami juga ucapkan terima kasih kepada semua peserta atas partisipasinya dan pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang luar biasa. Semoga diskusi hari ini tentu bisa membawa inspirasi untuk kita dan memperkuat posisi pendidikan jasmani di Indonesia. Once again, thank you so much Professor Kin and everyone. We will see you on the next forum and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Prof. Kin dan terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu semuanya. Selamat berakhir pekan. Saya kembalikan kepada Kak Prof.
Prof.
Terima kasih Kak Arda, terima kasih Prof. Kin. Sudah ditutup.
Thank you everyone.
Langsung kita close saja ya. Terima kasih, selamat beraktivitas, selamat beristirahat. Have a nice sleep, Kin. It's already night there. Sudah malam, mungkin saya akhiri. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Prof.
Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.